Ciao a tutti.
Ciao, buonasera a tutti. Eccoci. Benvenuti in questa prima live stream della de
Ci siamo, ci siamo. Ti sentiamo?
Scusate un attimo, qualche problema audio.
Esatto, sì, no, ti sentiamo. Diciamo che è da un po' di tempo che non facciamo insieme io e Luciano una diretta, nel passato, forse un annetto quasi. Comunque torniamo, sicuramente un argomento interessante che è appunto Analogjs. Oggi c'è Brandon che è poi tra i creatori e quindi ci racconterà tutto nel dettaglio, e Luciano ci fa vedere qualche slide sicuramente che ci interessa, non su questo argomento, ma almeno su qualcosa di molto molto, diciamo, juicy,
Here
come si
we
dice,
are.
no? Esatto.
Yes.
E
Okay, let's switch in English. Ermanno,
ok,
we have a lot of visitors actually. So I want to introduce you to our next conference. So
yeah,
Ermanno.
yeah. So this year we will have another event. That will be December 1st of this year, and you can find all the details on the website 2023.ngrome.io. And this year we will do a summit of the conference, which is a little bit different from last year. But basically, there will be a mixed event, both in person and streaming. And I guess it would be fun as it was last year. And yeah.
Cool.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Who is the main sponsor this year?
Yeah, okay. This year we will have, our main sponsor is Microsoft. We will be, in fact, staying at the Microsoft headquarters in Rome. And of course, there will be, other sponsors too. Some of them are the same of the last year. And the interesting thing is that we will be doing this event, as I said, in the Microsoft headquarters. And so there will be a little bit of limited space, but for the people that are likely to come in person, that would be great. And if you remember, last year we had a very big conference. There was like 400 people coming, and press also come to the event. We had speakers from directly from the Angular core team. We had people flying from very, very far ahead. And so, of course, we say hi to all the speakers of last year. And but also this year we will have something special. Isn't that so, Luciano?
Yes, correct. So we are going to organize a few workshops. So the first one is led by Gerard. So in this training, Gerard will explain about generative AI with Google, Bard, Palm, and MakerSuite, using these technologies with Angular. And the other one is about the staying safe with Angular. So Alisa Duncan will talk about how to prevent some risks that you expose with your web application in production. So she's going to cover vulnerabilities, example of attackers, and could be really interesting to attend this event. Of course, the workshops will be in person, so tickets are available in our website, so you can purchase it and enjoy.
Of course,
for sure.
yeah. And of course, you need to get the tickets, otherwise, the space is limited, and so it will be very hard to find them later on. And yeah, so regarding today, yeah, we're going to talk about Analogjs, which is something that I don't know. I mean, I have tried. Luciano has also tried, and it's interesting to know that the website, of course, the NGRome, the new version that we are hosting now for those events, is done in Analogjs, and for Luciano, it was a great experience to work on it, and you can find the repo of this website online. I mean, it's publicly available, and so you can check it out, and you can also contribute if you want to just, if you have some time, you want to experience something, you can go and try. You will be welcome to, look at the PRs. And Luciano, what did you like about doing these while we're waiting for Roberts to join?
Yeah, the main cool features that you have with Analog is the developer experience, and you are going to use a full Angular framework with the capabilities of a meta framework, and have all the powerful and website performance really interesting. So you remember, Hermano, last year we have our website was created with Angular.
Yeah.
We really like to work with it, but in terms of performance and I don't know how I can say, loading time, how to
the core vitals.
Core web vitals.
Yeah.
We have very lower results. With Analog, we increase these results. So it's really interesting how Analog can amplify this part.
That's true.
So, and what's your experience with performant website?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I started working on the web since, I think, very, very early. So, I mean, I tried a lot of different things. And of course, one of the first things that I learned is that you need to handle how the stuff is loaded, right? So, you try to reduce the size of images, of assets, of CSS files, of JavaScript. You try to load the JavaScript only when it's needed. So all these things that you need to do, you do it manually. And this is terrible experience, of course. And you also, when you switch to fat clients like Angular, you then go in the direction of having something that needs to be loaded, a lot of assets, of course, because all the JavaScript files listed in the manifest, of course, you need to load them, but also everything is on the client. So you lose all the stuff that you can do with server-side rendering. So in theory, your website is not, indexable very easily. You have to, look at all the other things that you can do, like Angular Universal and the other stuff. And that is not easy. That is not easy at all. So I think that we have a pending version from my company website in Angular Universal that is fully it works fully, but still we're not really happy to release them. So we switched to the plain HTML version right now. For that reason specifically.
Now you can use Analog.
Exactly, and that's the first thing I will try, and that's why I was studying them. And also, you sometimes you try to also work with the headless CMS to try to create a little bit of content management for people that are not developers on an Angular website. And of course, also that works okay, but again, you need to create all the stuff. You need to create the service to communicate with the API of the CMS. You need to plug another library, and then you need to. There is a lot of work that you need to do. And what I think is very important, and I think we will see something interesting, is the fact that you can have the file-based content from Analogjs, which is something interesting. So we will see. And
Yes.
yeah.
And another things that I want to share with you is how analog grow during this 6 month, I think.
Okay.
So we start to work on the website for NGRome conference 6 months ago, so before the summer. And I remember the first session was with limited features, and now we can use all the features that we have in Angular, for example, the image component, for example, or the new flow introduced with the new Angular version. So it's going to grow a lot. So that's the main reason that I start to chat with Brandon. I joined also to the Discord channel of Analog. A lot of people that are actually contributing to the project also.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's something you need to check out. Definitely, everyone needs to check out. It's the new thing that, I mean, probably is the best way of doing something that we can do also in other ways, of course. But the fact that you, as you mentioned, the developer experience, it's something that makes the difference. And I think that doing the things that you can do with Analogjs is easier compared to other solutions, and that's why I think it grow a lot of hype. And I mean, I'm happy that we can see and hear something directly from the people that created it. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Yeah.
Cool, really cool. So another question that I want to ask to you is, what do you think about the last release of Angular?
Well,
so you use a lot in your company, correct?
Yeah, no, we do a lot of Angular things. Yeah, of course. And well, we of course liked it, and I think the new version that is coming also will be very, very interesting for the things that we learn on Twitter, X, as you want to call it, from me and from the other people that are talking about them. What I really liked from the last one was the fact that changing the flow and changing a little bit of the images preload components. It gives you a lot of direct effect on the stuff that you do. So you already gain something doing very, very less for doing so. And so that's something that I think Angular is changing for the better in this way. Even though I'm the one that really likes Angular in the old-fashioned way. I'm one of the purists, I would say, and I really liked Angular because it was very, very structured. Something that I liked,
Cool.
but because I also like the Java programming language, so that comes with me, right? So I know that I'm not the common developer in that sense, and the fact that they are embracing also a lightweight way of structuring things is interesting. So yeah, I really like the work they are doing. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
In the meantime, we have also Brandon.
Yeah, cool.
So let's welcome.
Hey,
Hi. Nice to meet you, finally.
Yes, thank you. I apologize in advance, but yes, I'm glad.
We chat a lot on Discord, on Twitter. We try to have also you in the conference in December. But I promise you, we are going to have something biggest next year. So
cool.
Let's keep in touch about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm really happy to have you with us and our community. And so I think we can start. We leave the stage to you. And if you want, you can share your, I don't know if you have any presentation or you want to go directly with some like coding, what you prefer.
Yeah, I'll go through the presentation and I'll do a quick, maybe a quick demo, maybe a surprise, maybe not. We'll see.
Great.
Okay, I want to start with a question. Why you start to think about analog?
Why did I think about? That's a very good question. Part of it, well, the TLDR is I like to call it as like spike driven development. Is Angular has been around for of course a long time, and in the at least in the web, there's been like a shift in uh, the availability of meta frameworks. I guess the term is relatively new, but it seems like
Yeah.
every web framework has a meta framework, and Angular did not have one. And you can do, and I preface that to say you can do a lot with Angular already today. It already has like some of the pieces of a meta framework, but maybe necessarily not packaged together in some of the ways that Analog kind of does this today. So yeah, that was part of it, and I had been like floating the idea out on Twitter, of course, for a while. But sometimes like you just have to go and like build a thing and see if it's gonna go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, and this is probably kind of what I get into the talk also about like how where Vite kind of stands in the ecosystem, and kind of there are other projects kind of building around it. So that's kind of how the idea got started, and the name actually came from another project that was kind of another kind of crazy idea. So that's kind of a little bit of the backstory.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay, we leave the stage to you. So,
Yep.
see you
See you later.
Cool,
later.
thanks. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Let me do that. Window. Here we are. Awesome. Gather my things here. Oops. View. Here we are. Cool. Thanks once again for having me here. And of course, this talk is about Analog, and I'll kind of talk about some of the more of kind of an update of where, because I started this project kind of last year, and it's come a long way since then. I'm thankful to the community for supporting the project and helping it move along. So with that, we will get right into it. Cool. So my name is Brandon Roberts. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon T. Roberts. I should call it X Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I guess that either one of those would do. You can also follow me on YouTube at Brandon Roberts Dev. I create Angular content there also. So check that channel out and subscribe if you like the channel. So there you go. Also the creator of Analogjs, as Chris was talking about here. And I'm a maintainer on the NGRX project, which has, of course, been around for a while. Done pretty cool stuff there. Also a Google Developer Expert and NX Champion, which means I've been around the community for a while and been able to contribute and do some cool things like Analog and NGRX with a ton of cool people. So I'm also the engineering lead at Open Sauce, where we are helping open source maintainers and developers along their open source journey. If you want to this is kind of how I sum up of what we do. We provide insights into open source projects. So you can go to the URL above and it'll give you what's happening in the Angular ecosystem. So if you want to track some projects that you're interested in, like Analog or Angular or other projects like that, you can create a page to look at those projects and see what the ecosystem looks like, which is definitely a good thing because the ecosystem is moving along. So with that, I will, for the agenda, I'll talk about Vite and kind of where we were before. When I talked about the idea of Analog previously and kind of like where Analog is, and than contributing, and we'll get into a kind of demo here. And before I get into that, I just want to make a breaking news that we're going to rename the project to NGXT. You heard it here first, just for people watching in post. I'm only kidding. I just want to throw that out there because it has been something that has been kind of floated around the past couple of days. But it actually was one of the names for the project. At least we'll call it code names for the project. I did call it ng.js at one point. So we got some overlap there. But I digress. Let's get into the Vite side of the house, because kind of Vite's the driving factor here in one of the pieces of Analog. Vite has come along in the web ecosystem, and there's been like a mass shift to adopt it as the underlying tool. Tools such as Astro, React, Solid, Nuxt, Vue, even of course, SvelteKit, Quick, Playwright, and Vitest. All these tools have started using Vite as their underlying tool. And of course, when I talked about this before, Angular has always been kind of outside of this ecosystem, kind of doing its own thing. But we also always wanted in, like, the developers want the nice tools and everything else. So Analog has come along and kind of bridged that, being able to use Vite as a build tool, a complete tool, I would say. And even the Angular CLI has has jumped on board, I would say, and started using Vite as its dev server in combination with its ESBuild, new ESBuild pipeline. And definitely opened up some things there. And even tools like Nitro, which is one of the tools that Analog uses to make connects the server side pieces of this story. So of course, the first question is, like, how did we get here? I went from an idea to a meta framework in, I would say, a relatively short amount of time, but of course there are some pieces involved with that. So of course there's Analog here. We had the idea. We're using Angular, of course, which is our framework of choice. There's also Vite and Nitro, which is a tool that I get into more. And also NX plays a part in this story here. So first we'll kind of talk about Analog itself and some of the pieces that helped build the meta framework as what it is today. On the Angular side of things, like first thing up front, like, some of these things wouldn't be available if some of the building blocks in Angular did not happen. And one of the biggest building blocks of those is standalone components. If you're familiar with the Angular ecosystem, everything used to have components, pipes, directives. Everything used to have the module in front of it, an ng module. And with standalone components in Angular version 14, we definitely got a way to be able to build applications and explore different things without having to use ng modules. So that was one part of it. Next part is ESBuild. As I mentioned before, it's a very fast tool chain that is used even with Angular CLI to build Angular applications. And this also connected with the Vite ecosystem because they use ESBuild also in their tool chain. ESM, which has had its share of friction in the web ecosystem as a whole, but we're still kind of getting there. And even the SSR story in Angular itself has improved, even with the upcoming version 17, the Angular SSR library. It's got some improvements, and I think it'll just continue to get better there. So the question is, how do we bridge these two worlds together? And Vite has a very rich plugin system. So Analog started as just a plugin for Angular compilation where we can bridge these two models together. And even eventually, Angular may have some mechanism to where we get full integration, at least maybe in developer mode for single file compilation, or local compilation is another term that's been out there also. And what Vite unlocks is a few different things, such as dynamic imports, which we use for things such as markdown files or bringing that content in without having to write specific things there. There's also file system based routing, which I'll touch on also. And a combination with some of the Vite plugin, we have a markdown plugin for kind of transforming that content, for being able to build static sites quickly or with content routes. And it helps kind of decrease that friction that we want to use when we're kind of building websites and applications with Angular, as opposed to just kind of like enterprise type applications. So Nitro, you may have heard Nitro being mentioned around the ecosystem more these days, and it is a server framework maintained by a group of people called in the NGS org, and it has support for many things that Analog does, including pre-rendering. If you think about deployment targets, such as Node or Cloudflare or many different places, Vercel, Netlify, if you want to deploy to those places, it supports that. API routes, uses file system based routing there, and it's very extensible in how you can kind of plug and play the pieces there. And it's also kind of making its way around the web server ecosystem, I would say, in kind of the same way Vite is. There's also NX, because NX definitely plays a part in this story. Of course, NX has generators, and we use these for applications and routes and executors for underlying build tools such as Vite and also Vitest. And this gives you that same kind of experience when you're using ngserve or ngtest, and the underlying tools are used underneath there, and you can kind of move with these tools, kind of plugging in there. And it also provides things like automated migrations, so that we can, even if you start on one version of Analog, you can still have that nice upgrade story there. And presets, where we can kind of generate, scaffold an Analog application out of the box within an NX workspace. And you get that application already ready to go and running there. So we'll get into some of the features of Analog. As opposed, like I said, it started out as merely just a plugin and kind of connect the two worlds. We introduced file system based routing, server side rendering, static site generation, API routes, and another feature is server only data fetching. So if I could just kind of display what the file system based routing does, it's very flexible in that it's built on top of the Angular router, so you still have that familiarity there, and you're able to build these different types of routes with these conventions, whether it be static routes or dynamic routes, or even if you have nested layouts such as parent-child layouts, or even catch-all routes, and also ability to group these routes without them being part of the URL. So that's a very flexible feature there that we also have there. Server-side rendering. We always want to see nice green numbers on Lighthouse scores and the web performance metrics. And Analog takes these things and gives you this nice package out of the box. So we have NGServe, SSR is enabled by default. We also support, as I mentioned before, platforms such as Node and Edge. We look at different deployment providers. This is where Angular is still maturing in this area, where if you want to support, they support things such as Firebase and Netlify and Vercel and Cloudflare and more, and we kind of package these up and support these deployment targets out of the box. So you don't have to do anything extra to kind of build for those providers. Static site generation. If you're wanting to build a blog, or even you're already using Angular in your like main stack, and you want to build a blog or a static site, a content focused site, still use the tools that you're familiar with, and this is supported through ng-build and using pre-rendering routes, so you can define the routes, whether this be dynamically or if you're maybe pulling these from a CMS. You can also connect that in here. As far as API routes goes, like I said, these are file system based, and this is just an example of the API route. So you still have a kind of clear separation between what you do on the client application and what you do on the API side, and so you don't have to worry about kind of leaking secrets there. So you can define routes. This one is an example such as /products under the routes folder, and you'll get a /API/products. And you can kind of version this also if you wanted to create a V1 folder and just have API/V1/products. You can do that, which is a common way to kind of version an API. Also server-side data fetching. And this is also in a structured way to where you can we define these page routes, and you want to go and fetch some data and not necessarily include the code for fetching that data in your client side bundle. You can define an index.server file or a server.server file that matches the convention of the page that you're working with. And this also works for like layouts or nested child routes and things like that. And so in that file, you can define, you have a load function that you can define there, and you can go and fetch some data from an API or do some things that you would only want to run on the server and still be able to grab that data and send it back to that particular page. And in the page itself, you can consume this loaded data, whether it be through component input bindings with the Angular router, because we're still able to use all the Angular router features that are available there. And you can also, if you want to use the inject function or even convert the observable that comes with this loaded data as a signal, you can do that also. So it has that same set familiarity and kind of flexibility there. So that was kind of where Analog is today. But of course, the thing that we're expanding and taking Angular into other places is ecosystems. We're always trying to push Angular forward and push the boundaries of where we can use Angular or even in other environments or supporting other ways, because Angular is flexible enough in its tools and process to allow us to be able to do that. And Analog is no different in that way. We have Analog, which is, like I said, is kind of a growing ecosystem there. Angular, and we're extending by integrating in with Vite. Further, we can extend things to other places, such as Astro. You can use Angular components within Astro. Quick, there's another ecosystem. By the plugin being available, we can use Angular components within a Quick application, or even as tools that I mentioned before, such as vtest. I know that Jest is the kind of de facto tool today, and vtest has a Jest compatible API that you can add to an existing application and get set up there, and still use some of those, not have to redo everything to be able to use those tools. Even just this week, having some conversations with being able to integrate with Playwright and component testing, which uses Vite also, and be able to extend even more there. Or even Storybook, such as tools that you're familiar with, or if you want to build design systems and tools like that. And I've even looked at extending to tools such as MDX. MDX is traditionally, JSX based, but it's another place where we can connect to it through a plugin and be able to use Angular components within MDX files, or maybe we even can create our own .ngx format to be able to get that same kind of experience there. But those are big ideas. Some of the things that we can do there. Analog is also enabling other stacks and UIs to come about also. Robin, who has been who's on the Analog team, has built Spartan UI and Spartan Stack. You can definitely check out the logo. He's been iterating on these logos, so if you want to see what's latest, you can go to the Spartan repo and definitely check that out there. And of course, like I said, Analog itself wouldn't be where it is today without contributors. So contributing to Analog, the open source project, can be done through GitHub issues, through documentation, and I'm happy to say that even our documentation is getting translated. We have full documentation that's been translated into, is in English and fully translated into Spanish, which is pretty cool. Pull requests or even sponsorships. So we're always looking to see, of course, this is a big undertaking, and definitely sponsorships with companies help us to do more with the project. As I mentioned before, team members on the project: Robin, as I mentioned, Spartan UI, and also Marco, who is a core contributor on the NGRX team, is on the team, the Analog team also, and help actually build out the file-based routing to be a lot more flexible there. Cool. On the community side, what's a project without the community? This number keeps growing, which I'm pretty proud of. 60 plus contributors. This is not all of them listed here. Even Luciano is listed as one of the contributors, so appreciate that. We've reached over 1,500 stars on GitHub, accepted into the first GitHub Accelerator cohort. And if you want to come and chat about Analog, or even you want to try it out, or you're want to get further along there, you could join the Discord. And of course, Analogjs on Twitter. If you want to find out more about Analogjs, you go to analogjs.org, or you can even go to ngxt.io, and it'll take you to analogjs.org. So we're going to have some fun with that. We may even expand on that project itself to build some cool stuff there. But Analogjs, Analog, the name isn't going anywhere, so we don't have anything to worry about there. Of course, if you want to visit the GitHub repo, you can go here to the repo listed here. Or if you want to, your company is building Angular and you want to integrate Analog into your stack, you can sponsor the project, or even if you maybe you need some help building server first Angular applications, you contact anybody on the team and help us. It also helps us in both ways, kind of move the project forward and be able to work more on the project itself. So to recap on the presentation, I talked about Vite and how things come together there. I talked about how Vite has impacted the web ecosystem, and talked about Analog, where it was when I talked about Analog as more of an idea, and how it's kind of grown into more than just that, and grown into something that's its own ecosystem and continue to push the Angular forward. So, and talked about contributing to the project. So thanks for that. I will, that'll be where we're at for the slide portion, and we'll see if we can do a quick demo here. And I'll even see if we can show this other part if I haven't got everything here. Let's see. Let's see if we can share the screen. Okay, and there we are. So what I wanted to show here, and we'll do init serve, and of course, if the live demos go how we want them to go, we will build the blog app here, and we'll build some packages. But I did want to show post here. So I'll go through, and this is one of the things I was, like I said, I wanted to just kind of take a peek here into something that we were looking at, is that let's see if I'll make this a little bigger. This structure here looks pretty standard to an analog app. We have a blog, we have markdown files, and we also have pages here that you can define for the blog itself. And this is just the demo of that particular page here. My first post, my second post, about pages, pretty standard stuff there. One thing that we have been, like I said, looking at is, and that's, like I said, all this is stuff you get out of the box. Going through the application itself, we're looking at our app config. We have pretty standard application config, HTTP client, hydration for server-side rendering. They provide content file from the Analogjs/content package. We're using Mermaid with Mermaid templates to be able to render Markdown, and of course the file-based routing, which is using features from the Angular router here. One thing that I did want to show here is the support here for the files here for MDX files. And like I said, I talked about this during the presentation, but this is just a standard MDX file. And we look at our component here. This is a Hello component. Naturally, you would think this is a React component, but if we go into components and Hello, this is an Angular component. So we have a standard Angular component here. We're using that within this MDX file. And if we come back to our route here, we have our /hello, which is defined here as hello.mdx. And we have our Angular component, standard Angular component within MDX. So it's something, like I said, possibilities are here. I didn't want to show, like, we've seen the blog, we've seen the static things before, but we can also see where this could also go in the future. So I just want to show a quick peek of something like MDX files within analog content routes, and kind of show that flexibility there. So as I mentioned before, we're still working towards these things and continue to move the project forward. And like I said, I look forward to more people trying it out and giving us more feedback. Thanks.
Cool. Really, really cool. I have to upgrade to the latest version, the Summit website. So the first question is how easier is it?
Yeah. So the good thing is that whether you're using the Angular CLI or whether you're using NX, you can use the regular upgrade process to do that. Whether you're using ng update, you can do ng update at Analogjs/platform at latest, and that will upgrade you there. If you're using NX workspace, you can use NX migrate at Analogjs/platform at latest, and it'll work with either one of those setups, because I know there are people that want to use analog and they want to use it within the context of a regular like Angular workspace. So support for both of those is definitely important, and it's something that we'll continue to have going forward.
Cool. Okay, very interesting. Hermano, do you have some question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that really bridges a gap that we find while working on Angular. And most of the time, I mean, in my personal experience, one of the things was content management, which is something you don't have out of the box, right, with Angular, because you can build the coolest website, but then it goes in the hand of someone that needs to put the content, and it's not you. And then you try to use all these, headless CMS to do so, which I think is a little bit hard in some contexts. So I really see that with the file-based hierarchy that you have, and with the cool, placeholders names that you can have, you can actually build something that can dynamically scale to a lot of content, actually. So I think, in my opinion, the fact that you can generate everything directly with the server routes and all of that gives a lot of flexibility to people, because you can definitely plug any APIs inside the server functions and build contents, or take it from somewhere else and then actually render it. So I think that was the first thing that actually brought my attention to Analogjs, and I really liked. Now, seeing that you can also have MDX or other things, it's also very, very good.
Yeah, that was actually but that was the real breaking news. I wasn't gonna actually change the name of the change the name of the project, but yeah, the MDX was something I've been kind of working on, but it's still work in progress. But yeah, at least I gave a tease on the on here, so y'all are like the first ones to see it out in the open. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's super cool. Thank you. No, I mean, that's great. I mean, I use some web components, some other things, but
Yeah.
having the possibility to use MDX also opens to the fact that you can bring on some projects some React developers or other people jumping on, and that's a help for companies, of course. So
Yeah, the biggest thing, like, I'm not trying to, I will say this up front, I'm not trying to turn React developers into
yeah,
Angular developers, but I do think that there's some familiarity that can be gained there by having some of this overlap there. Be able to use some of the same tools from different places. That way, there isn't as much friction. If you have people who've developed on other projects before that are you working with Angular now, so I do think
yep.
there's is some good things that can come out of that. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And so I do have a question for people that maybe want to start. Is there kind of a pet project or something stupid? Still, I mean, simple enough to start. That's the thing that you can suggest to try to see
yeah,
few of the features.
yeah, the blog is usually the one I go to because it's kind of the one you can on ramp quickest to. With just adding the provide content provider and just dropping some markdown in there. So I did have a YouTube video that shows you how to build a blog with analog and Angular in 10 minutes. So
Okay.
that's one thing I can point people to. But other than that, I would say probably like a full stack to do app is probably a good one also, because that way you can still use the server routes, you can still use the file-based routing. The biggest example that we have in the analog docs, or at least in the analog repo, is the one that's similar to the Angular product store. You can do that one where you have a list of products and you want to like add them to a cart or kind of go through that checkout flow. So that's another one also. We don't have necessarily a walkthrough for that one, but I think that's a good one also. If you want to just like list some products, be able to add them to a cart, add or remove them to a cart, and kind of check out, enter some fake address information. That's another quick win
Okay.
that people can have also.
No, that's cool. And yeah, go ahead.
In your opinion, Analog in this moment has the maturity to be considered by enterprise company to build something for production, or you think we need to wait more for something?
No, I think for the primary use case, if you're building like a content focused site, something like that, in addition to like the other Angular apps that you're building, I do think it's ready for to be used there. We did have our first stable release. It's probably been maybe a couple of months ago now since that happened, but some people need the like the stamp of a 1.0 before they consider for them to use it in their enterprise stack or enterprise project or something like that. And we're still moving in that direction. So yeah, I do consider it to be stable enough to where you should be able to create a new project using a template, and whether you're on your personal project or even a company website or something like that. I think it'll work in either one of those areas. So, yeah, the good part about it is like we're not like Angular is already enterprise ready, so you're already gaining that part of it there. And then the other pieces are, of course, is V, and like I said, the other server pieces are already being used, I think, in enterprise settings. So I think there's definitely opportunity to use it there.
Yeah, cool.
I really enjoy to use it. So
Yeah,
this
that's
is
good
the
because well, and that's like the biggest part of one of the biggest things in the project itself is like the experience of building a project with it and being able to use Angular in that way. I think is something that people have really kind of gravitated towards because we still want you to be able to use, like I said, the tools that you're comfortable with, but being able to create a nice cohesive experience is definitely a goal of the project.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, I mean, you said something very, very quickly in the beginning, but I think maybe it's quite important. Is that you said if you had an API keys or something and you want to protect it on the back, on
Mm-hmm.
something that's theoretically, backend, that's one of the blockers you have in most of the, pet projects that you have.
Yeah.
Somewhere, if you're using a third-party API, you need to put these API keys somewhere, and you of course don't want to have it on the front end side, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And just that I think enables people to expand learning Angular and learning things because they now can do something in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's simple as fetching something in a secure way, I think that improves the experience of who is building, custom, simple
Yeah,
project.
for sure. Yeah, because there's definitely like a leap you have to make if you want to build a full stack Angular app today. Like Angular Universal slash what is now Angular SSR is still an option there, but you still have to do some legwork there to be able to set everything up right. Have your API if you want it to be completely separate from there, and still, like you said, be it have a place where you know to put environment keys or environment variables or secret keys and things like that, so you're not leaking that stuff on the client. So being able to have that out of the box, I think, gives developers a place where they can, oh, okay, I know I'm not supposed to put this in the client app, so I know where I can put that now without having to go and bring in a whole new thing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Gives you also a little bit of structure, so it's important.
Yeah. I, I would say in some ways analog it maybe is even more opinionated than like a traditional Angular app just because of the file-based routing, and you kind of have to structure things in that way. But I'm only kidding in that way. But it is I do think that it does give you a little more structure out of the box, so you don't have to necessarily think about how do I configure these routes in a way that will make sense, or like parent-child routes, that sort of thing. You can build those how you want them to look using the file system, and we kind of do the hard part for you underneath. So yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah. Let's see if there is any question from the audience. Yeah.
cool. So what's the picture about the API? So if we can think how to uh, improve or expand the features of the API inside Analog,
Mhm.
what would you think first?
I do think that there is, as far as like the API side, the API side is pretty flexible in that you can just build whatever routes you kind of need for the API. But I do think there is opportunity there to enhance that more. As far as, I'll give like forms for an example. Like forms are like always a hot topic in Angular. Uh, it handles all the client side forms. But what if we could have like progressive enhancement for forms in Angular, so that you could submit kind of like in, like in kind of Remix, you can have forms where you can submit it directly to like an API route, and it will do all the validation and stuff on the server, and then give you the validation messages back if there are any. So things like that, I think the API kind of bringing those two things closer together is one step in that, and we're kind of doing that already with the server routes, because you can go and fetch all that data on the server and return it to the client if you want to use it in that way. So yeah, I think more cohesiveness there. I know some people have wanted to use or have built solutions around being able to use the server routes with like cookies and things. So I think there's some improvements we can probably do there to make that smoother with being able to access server access cookies on the server. Excuse me, and do that. So
okay, yeah, excellent. So yeah,
Okay.
when we will see these
Thank you.
new things online, on your opinion, I mean,
Yes.
the MDX, the other stuff.
Absolutely. And of course, if you want to contribute, so join the Discord channel,
Yep.
open pull request, check all the issue, propose.
Yeah,
Also.
there you go. Like I said, if people have ideas of things they would like to see, I would say definitely jump into Discord or file an issue on the repo, and we'll at least explore to see if those things are available to do. And like we're also building on top of Angular, so even features that Angular gets, like even the new control flow, like you can use that within Analog. It's not something that we're not like going off the path of what a traditional Angular app does, even with the compiler and everything. So we're still building on top of Angular, so those features naturally will come along with the new stuff too.
Okay. Really, thank you, Brandon, to stay with us today. So see you next time. Hope to see you in Rome in person next time.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, hermano.
Cool. Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
It's a pleasure. Bye.